Our next question, Jim, sent in to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Paul in Connecticut. What do you think about the story that CM Punk's return was shot down by Vince McMahon? Have you heard about this?
Have you heard about this? Have you read about this? I saw on the internet there was a quote that Vince said, he's just the one man I can't do business with. Of course, we've heard that about a couple of other men, though.
But it's interesting because apparently the story goes, and who knows how accurate it is, CM Punk's representatives got in touch with WWE and said, would you guys be open to him doing something? And Vince had that attitude. And it's interesting because CM Punk didn't really do much, I guess, for the ratings of that backstage show when it was on. But what does this say about Punk with the future with the WWE? But also, if that's Vince's attitude, what value does he have for AEW?
Well, he would have value for AEW if they had CM Punk on their television show. That would be a boon to them because he's a major name and he's a fish that got away. However, he really botched it with the way he returned to television. I don't know what his relationship is with Vince, but it hurt me to hear that his representatives reached out because I was like, here, the modern day Jack Briscoe, this is the one guy that's going to walk away and say, fuck you and mean it. Right. Whether he comes back to wrestling, at least he would not come back to the WWF, WWE. And I was pulling for him to do that because somebody needs to. So I hate to think that he's the one that asked them if he could come back. And we haven't heard him say that that's the case to verify that. But to come back to television at the level of star he was and the people that chanted for a while, we want Punk or CM Punk or whatever. And still that if you did something on a national show with a big splash, he would mean something and he can talk his ass off. I don't know what his work's like these days. He's been out of the ring 5 years or whatever, but he's a personality. But to come back on a show about a show, WWE backstage, as like, you're not a star on Walking Dead, you're a guest on Talking Dead. Fuck that. For him to have come back just to do a TV show about a TV show, and then not even be the host of it or be a regular, be the star of it, just pop in every now and then. It's like, he suddenly became, if it was a movie, he wouldn't be the star, he'd be the best friend. He's a supporting actor now. He's just a fucking guy that Bob said that was a major mistake to come back to anything wrestling related. I'm not saying he couldn't do a bit part in a movie or any TV show or whatever, but in the wrestling genre, if he was not going to come back and make a splash at a major fucking pay-per-view or a big national television show on the show in an angle, whether it be AEW, WWE or whatever, just to pop up and say hello on WWE backstage, that was not the greatest thing to do.
The idea that Vince is saying that's the one guy I can't do business with. Have you ever heard him talk about anyone else like that?
Well, Savage.
You heard that though?
Well, he's been quoted as saying, I will not do business with that man. I never brought his fucking name up after. I was there when Savage was still there before he left. And after he left, I saw how pissed Vince was. And I was never going to be the one to say, hey, why don't we see what Savage is doing? Fuck that. I didn't want to get a mallet upside my head. But I know Punk has been a complete nightmare for them to try to do business with. And also he had that great line with Triple H where he said, I don't need to work with you. You need to work with me. And so now the son-in-law is fucking hot. And he made it plain that he didn't want to wrestle anymore. He did the whole UFC thing. I think Vince is like, fuck it. I'm not going to fucking waste my time and stress over this guy. It's not worth it. I'm still far enough ahead. Man, I'm not saying that CM Punk is in the wrong because if all the misery that he went through, which you can't make all that shit up. He had some misery. Generally when I say fuck it, I'm done with somebody, fuck it, I'm done for fucking life. Every once in a while I'll go back to the same company, but only with a complete change in management. And even that's not very often. As I've said before, if you have a miserable experience and hate your life when you're dealing with somebody, why do you want to go back again?
You know, Brody Lee had an interesting comment in that Jericho interview. He said that he remembered talking to CM Punk, and CM Punk, who obviously had a lot of issues with WWE, even when he was there, he said that the thing about WWE is everything could be better. Like anything you think about, anything you do, anything that's going on, everything could be better. And I think that's really interesting.
Well, it's true because it's gotten bigger than a wrestling promotion is supposed to be. I've said it before, wrestling should never have been national to begin with. Wrestling, the regional territories were the perfect way to present wrestling because you had wrestling everywhere, but the specific wrestling that you had in places was the specific kind of wrestling that those people in those places would like. And whether it was crazy fucking fights and, you know, bloody fucking brawls in Memphis, or technical wrestling in Florida mixed with some bloody brawls, or, you know, the fucking big guys in the Northeast, or the, you know, fucking the Little East Tennessee territory was completely different than the Memphis territory, because those people definitely knew what real fights looked like. And so they did hard ways and all that bullshit that, I don't say bullshit fondly, you know, to make people believe in that small area. But you had the regional promotions were tailored to the places that they ran, but it was still overall professional wrestling. You can't have one style of fucking wrestling and present it everywhere, because that doesn't work. And then you can't do anything locally. So WWE has gotten so big, it could all be better, but there's so many people involved, so many channels to go through, so much bullshit, the PG shit, the publicly traded shit. You can't offend anybody. Heaven knows somebody was to grab somebody's ass in a fucking locker room or something, there'd probably be a goddamn hanging over it. So you can't present wrestling the same way all across the country, because different regions have different people that like different shit. And I saw old Uncle Dave, actually, he lived there and he still couldn't get this. Somebody asked him, said, well, was JYD really as over in Mid-South? Or I can't remember what the question was, but there was a comparison of Kerry Von Erich and JYD. And Dave, for a period of about a year, lived in Oklahoma because he lived in North Texas and went to the matches in Oklahoma because he worked for a newspaper down there. I think it was Wichita Falls. Anyway, he said, well, when I saw those Mid-South shows live in Oklahoma City, Kerry Von Erich's pop was just as big as JYD's. Well, all things being equal, yes, it was. But here's the problem. All things weren't equal. JYD first got over in New Orleans and Louisiana and Mississippi because that was where Mid-South Wrestling promoted in 1980 and 81. The states of Louisiana and Mississippi. They didn't take over from Leroy McGurk, the rest of his tri-state territory, Oklahoma and Arkansas, until 1982. So the people in Oklahoma had never seen JYD's first 2 years, the formative 2 years where he became God in New Orleans, and saw all those angles to get the full flavor of the history. But they were seeing the Dallas TV with the Von Erichs from World Class, because not only was it syndicated across the country, but in Oklahoma before it was syndicated across the country, because that was a 3-hour drive from Dallas. World Class was on local television in those Oklahoma towns, even when Leroy McGurk was still promoting.
And didn't Fritz own a piece of Oklahoma City?
Fritz owned a piece. Yes, that's why that Kerry or, you know, a few of the other Dallas stars would appear in the early years, at least. I don't know if he kept it past 84 or early 85 when they had the falling out and quit trading talent so much. But yes, you'd see Dallas guys go up to Oklahoma because there was a financial interest there, a minor one. That's also why JYD, they didn't annex Houston into Mid-South until late 1983. 82, I'm sorry. All right, savant. But Paul Bosch, because he booked his own cards, even when he was using the San Antonio talent, he would bring in Dusty Rhodes. He'd bring in Andre the Giant, and he'd bring in JYD. So the people in Houston saw JYD before it ever even became a Mid-South town. And so he was over there. And also, here's another thing. Let's just face it. You've got a fucking Texas cowboy, second-generation wrestler like Kerry Von Erich in Oklahoma, against, and your other babyface is a black guy. Well, there wasn't a lot of black people in Oklahoma. So while JYD was a god in New Orleans, especially at the downtown Municipal Auditorium, he wasn't as naturally a god in Oklahoma City when he started showing up there 2 or 3 years later. But here's this fucking all-American boy that looked just like them, or just like they wanted their kids to look, Kerry Von Erich, and naturally they're going to fucking go crazy over him. But they still like dog in Oklahoma. But he didn't have that bond with those people. The run didn't last as long, and it wasn't such a natural fit. Take Kerry Von Erich to fucking, New Orleans, and he's still going to be over, but the dog had him. Jackson, Mississippi, same thing. It depended on who had seen the evolution of these guys from the start, who understood the history, and what geographic appeal those individuals had.
Well, we got there somehow from CM Punk.
Oh, so Punk. Going back to Punk. Well, you said the WWE, everything could be better. Everything could be better, but it's too big. It's too big. Wrestling was not meant to be promoted nationally with publicly traded companies that have to worry about hurting people's fucking feelings. So everything could be better. But by the time it goes through and gets washed and sanitized, and everybody has a turn at fucking the idea up that you had to begin with or whatever. And then, Vince still thinks this should be Disney and entertainment. And people are, they're revolting against his type of entertainment. Now the other company has made it, where the fan du jour is that, they appeal to the people that think this is supposed to be funny and silly and stupid and showbiz. And they laugh that anybody ever took it seriously. And that's just a limited amount of people too. Just like the people that are still going to fucking put up with this goddamn, people doing special effects falling off of fucking high places and not being splattered into a million pieces because it's television. It's just all entertainment now, just a different level of entertaining or a different level of stupid.